There is a plant that costs $2 and destroys infections that antibiotics cannot touch. Not slows them down. Not weakens them. Destroys them completely at the cellular level. One preparation from dried leaves, and your immune system fights back with the power of a compound that modern medicine has known about since 1928, but quietly stopped talking about in 1962. Egyptian physicians prescribed it 3,500 years ago. Roman soldiers carried it in their field kits across every campaign from Britannia to Mesopotamia. Indigenous healers across 6 continents independently arrived at the same preparation using the same plant. And in 1942, the United States Army Medical Corps documented it as one of the most effective wound treatments in field conditions during the entire Pacific Campaign. A $2 preparation that eliminates resistant infections is not a medical breakthrough to celebrate. It is a financial threat to neutralize. The global pharmaceutical industry generates over $1.4 trillion every single year. Antibiotic resistance alone drives over $20 billion in annual prescription revenue. A plant that grows in every climate on Earth and costs $2 was never going to survive that boardroom calculation. They did not stop using it because it failed. They stopped talking about it because it worked too well. This is the story of Artemisia, the infection killer that ancient civilizations trusted and pharmaceutical corporations quietly buried. Welcome to Our World. If this knowledge matters to you, the subscribe button is the most important thing you can press right now. Because here we open the vaults they locked shut. Now let me take you back to where this story truly begins. 3,500 years before the first pharmaceutical patent was ever filed, Egyptian physicians were already solving the problem that modern medicine calls a global health crisis today. The Ebers Papyrus, dating to approximately 1550 BC, contains over 700 documented medical prescriptions. Prescription number 251 describes an Artemisia preparation applied directly to infected wounds that would not close. The physicians of Thebes were not guessing. They were documenting a treatment they had already used successfully for generations. The preparation required nothing more than dried Artemisia leaves, warm water, and cloth. The same 3 ingredients you could assemble right now for less than the cost of a coffee. And Egypt was not alone. By the 4th century BC, Chinese imperial physicians had developed a refined preparation called Qing Hao from the same plant family for treating intermittent burning fevers, the same condition modern medicine now identifies as malaria. The preparation is documented in the Zhou Ho Bei Ji Fang, written by physician Gu Hong around 340 AD. His instructions are so precise that when Chinese scientist Tu Youyou rediscovered this text in 1969 and followed Gu Hong's exact method, she successfully isolated artemisinin, the compound that won her the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015. Let me say that again. A woman won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015 for following instructions written in a Chinese medical text from 340 AD. The knowledge was never lost. It was sitting in a library the entire time. What was lost was the willingness to look. Roman military physicians carried standardized field kits documented in garrison records excavated across the former empire. Artemisia appears in multiple excavated kits at frontier forts in Germany, England, and Jordan. Not as a secondary option. As a primary wound treatment carried alongside surgical instruments. The Roman military trusted this plant with the lives of its soldiers for over 500 years. That is not folk medicine. That is a clinical track record that most modern pharmaceutical trials cannot come close to matching. In 1928, a Scottish physician named Alexander Fleming discovered that a naturally occurring compound destroyed bacterial infections in laboratory conditions. Within 30 years, the pharmaceutical industry had built a $20 billion annual empire around synthetic versions of what nature had already solved thousands of years earlier. By 1962, research funding for naturally occurring antimicrobial compounds dropped by over 80% inside a single decade. Not because the research produced negative results. Because it produced results that could not be patented. A naturally occurring plant compound cannot be owned. It cannot be licensed. It cannot generate the recurring prescription revenue that keeps shareholders satisfied. What can be patented is a synthetic version, close enough to achieve similar results but different enough to file an intellectual property claim. That synthetic version can then be priced at whatever the market will bear. And the market for treating drug-resistant infections will bear a great deal. The result of this calculation is sitting in your medicine cabinet right now. Antibiotics costing $40 to $200 per course for a compound whose active mechanism was first documented by an Egyptian physician 3,500 years ago and refined by a Chinese physician who charged his patients nothing. The suppression was not dramatic. It was economic, systematic, and quiet. By 1970, the global pharmaceutical industry had consolidated into fewer than 20 corporations controlling over 60% of worldwide drug development funding. Every one operated on the same fundamental business model. Medical problems must always generate recurring revenue. A plant anyone can grow in their garden and prepare with cold water is not a product opportunity. It is an existential threat to a $1.4 trillion annual industry. So the knowledge was not destroyed. It was made invisible, buried inside academic journals behind $40 paywalls, reclassified as folklore, language specifically designed to signal to physicians that the information is not scientifically credible, excluded from medical school curricula funded by pharmaceutical money, replaced on pharmacy shelves by branded synthetic derivatives priced at 50 times the cost of the original. The Artemisia preparation that Egyptian physicians used in 1550 BC costs $2 and requires no prescription, no insurance, no pharmacy visit, and no shareholder approval. That is precisely why you have never heard of it. $1.4 trillion in annual pharmaceutical revenue depends on you calling it folklore. $20 billion in annual antibiotic prescriptions depends on you believing resistant infections have no natural solution. But this knowledge did not disappear. It was priced out of your awareness and buried behind trade names and curricula funded by the same corporations profiting from keeping you sick. A plant does not care about brand strategy. Artemisinin does not expire. And the Nile River has never charged a licensing fee. Subscribe to Auto Our World right now and share this with someone who deserves to know. Every share puts a crack in the wall they spent billions building around knowledge that was never theirs to lock away. The next vault opens soon. And we are just getting started.